calling to order the 5 p.m. meeting of the Housing Authority of the County of Monterey, regular board meeting, the Board of Commissioners on Monday, December 13th, 2021. Kathleen, Commissioner Ballesteros, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to
the
republic
for which it stands, one
one
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Ballesteros. And
You're welcome.
Ms. Madera, was it you calling
Yes.
this evening? Thank you.
Yes, I am, Commissioner Wizard. Okay, Chair Wizard,
Present.
Vice Chair Buder,
Present.
Commissioner Healy,
Present.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Present.
Commissioner Gama,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Goodwin.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And before we move to item number 3, I have a request for a last minute change to the agenda. We ended up having a very fruitful ad hoc committee meeting and would like to present something to the full board for their consideration. And we weren't sure that was going to happen when we made the agenda. So we need a 2/3 vote to add it. And it's for asking for direction from the full board. And we'll get into the agenda item later. But anyway, I would like to move that we add a new item under 7E as in Edward, for a report from the ad hoc committee and a recommendation to pursue a consultant.
I'd second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Buder. It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll go out to public comment. Any public comment on the addition of a new agenda item to discuss the results of the ad hoc committee's 4:30 p.m. meeting from earlier this evening? Anybody, Gabby? Okay, thank you. And seeing no hands, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Chair Wizard,
Aye.
Vice Chair Buder,
Yes.
Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes.
Commissioner Gama,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
and Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes.
Great, thank you. That motion passes unanimously. We'll move on now to item number 3, general public comment. Any members of the public wishing to make comments on items not agendized for this current evening's business meeting, please raise your hand or speak up for our clerk to unmute you and give you an opportunity to let us know what your thoughts are. Okay, seeing and hearing no one, we'll close public comment and move on to item 4, the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered routine and therefore do not require separate discussion. Is there anybody on the board or in the public that would like to pull anything from the consent agenda to have that discussion? Anybody in the public?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Healy, for the motion and Commissioner Miller for the second. May I please have the roll call vote?
Yes. Chair Wizard,
Aye.
Vice Chair Buder,
Yes.
Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes.
Commissioner Gama,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin. Yes, the motion passed.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Commissioners and Ms. Madera. That motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to item 5, the reports from committees. Commissioner Ballesteros and the Personnel Committee.
We did not have a personnel committee meeting in December.
Perfect. And since I've got you already, Michi and/or affordable acquisitions.
I believe we didn't have a meeting this month. We had it in November.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
And I see Commissioner Miller, you were also indicating that there was no report. Thank you so much. Commissioner Gama, any news from the Finance and Development Committee?
No, and I'm drawing a blank. I believe we met. Everything should be in the binder. Everything's in the agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Gama. Item 6 is our report of the secretary. Ms. Madera, will you be taking care of that this evening?
Yes, basically, the executive report is in the packet. And if you have any questions, you can report them and then we'll follow up with an answer. But if you would like for me to briefly, but it's in the packet. If you would like me to mention anything.
Any items of concern for our commissioners in the executive's report? All right, seeing none, we'll go to item 7A, a resolution number 3038 for Assembly Bill 361 on remote meetings. Ms. Madera, will you be introducing these?
Yes, so the resolution 3038, it is just to provide meetings requirements during the pandemic, is allowing us to conduct virtual meetings.
Okay, and we've seen this one before. Are there any questions from commissioners or comments? Any comments or questions from the public? Okay, we'll just pause for a second in case someone's trying to get their hand raised. All right, seeing and hearing no one, will close public comment, return to the board. Any action?
I'll make a motion. We pass resolution 3038.
I second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller, for moving, and Commissioner or Vice Chair Buder for the second on item 7A, resolution 3038 for Assembly Bill 361 and remote and virtual meetings. A roll call vote, please.
Chair Wizard,
Aye.
Vice Buder,
Yes.
Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes.
Commissioner Gama,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes.
So we have a motion passed.
Great, unanimous pass yet again. Wonderful work, team. Let's move on to item 7B, resolution 3039, approval to update the 2017 Housing Choice Voucher Administration Plan.
The resolution 3039 is pretty much is an outline of our admin and our program policies. Currently, we are working on updating the whole admin plan. But as you could see here, we had to modify and do some revisions on chapters because they were not aligned with some of these chapters. But pretty much we had to implement chapter 20, which is the emergency housing voucher. That is required from HUD, that we need to adopt some of the provisions of the COVID. So I'm asking the board to approve our admin plan with these changes, and also would like to, if the board will like for me just to give you an update on the changes on the contents instead of the whole policy. As you can see, there was several policies and chapters outlining all the changes. I don't know if that's something the board would like to see, or would they just like to see the update changes?
Do you mean, just to clarify, do you mean for this evening for before we vote? Or-
Going forward, like right now I outlined, what was the original admin plan, and then we made the changes. As you could see, it's striked out and it's like it's highlighted in red and yellow. Those are the changes that we made on the admin plan.
That was pretty clear to me. Are there comments from other commissioners about that presentation?
I think the red line's very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciated it.
Okay.
I see Commissioner Miller nodding as well. So yeah, if we can continue that practice, that would be great. Thank you, Ms. Madera.
Okay.
Questions or questions from Ms. Madera related to the administrative plan? Okay, let's go out to public comment. Anybody from the public wishing to comment or ask questions about the 2017 administrative plan update for housing choice vouchers?
No.
Okay, and we'll pause for a second for folks in the Zoom. Okay, so hearing and seeing none, we'll come back to the board. Any comments or action on this item?
I'll make a motion for approval of the changes to the administrative plan.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you for your motion, Commissioner Miller, and the second, Commissioner Healy, to adopt, here it is, I moved away from the agenda. Hold on, I apologize. Resolution 3039, approval to update the 2017 Housing Choice Voucher Administrative Plan. A roll call vote, please.
Okay. Chair Wizard,
Aye.
Vice Chair Buder,
I'm going to vote no, mostly because, I know it was last meeting we talked about the payment standards. I know that this also relates to the emergency housing vouchers mostly, but I'm going to continue to vote no on the admin plan until we kind of make some adjustments there. But that's just my quick reasoning on my.
Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes.
Commissioner Gama,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin.
yes,
We have an unanimous pass.
I think it was 6-1.
Oh, 6-1. Oh, yeah, 6-1.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry.
Thank you. All good, all good. Thank you, commissioners and Ms. Madera. We'll move to item 7C. Resolution 3040 related to simplified acquisition threshold procurement. Ms. Madera.
So the Housing Authority is seeking approval for the Board of Commissioners to amend the procurement policy to be in line with small PHAs of the threshold from 100,000 to 250,000. So this is for resolution 3040.
Thank you very much. And just a little bit of background on this for the full board and the public. We talked about this at our last special meeting, but this is the next step in that original conversation where we gave direction to the staff. And the upshot is we wanted to increase the ability of our staff to be a little more flexible and not do the full, upwards of 60-day RFP process for administrative things like contracting with a lawyer, contracting with a property management company, contracting with a consultant to do HR related things. The board will still retain approval authority, but it changes. This is to change the dollar amount at which we say, okay, no more shop for quotes, and instead go do the full lengthy RFP process. And so we're going to up the limit on the shopping for quotes to be 250, not necessarily the approval of what those quotes are. So any questions from commissioners? Okay, out to the public, any comments or questions from the public related to the simplified acquisition threshold procurement?
No.
Okay, I don't see anybody in the Zoom, so we'll come back and ask for comments or action from the board.
I move to approve resolution 3040.
Second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Booter, for your motion, and Commissioner Miller for the second to approve Resolution 3040, that simplified acquisition threshold procurement. A roll call vote, please.
Chair Wizard,
Aye.
Vice Booter, Chair Booter, Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes.
Commissioner Gama,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin.
yes,
Unanimous pass.
Great, thank you. Item 7D is the temporary professional services contract for interim executive director and director of finance. As we're all aware, our last interim executive director's last day was Thursday of last week, and Ms. Madera has saved us and stepped into that role temporarily for some continuity while we figure out our next step. We have a proposal from Ms. Sturgeon, our former interim executive director, to provide a little bit of coverage until we can place somebody. And I invited our new counsel to the meeting. I'm wondering, Ms. Brown, do you have any comments or insights there that you could share?
Yes, so we received a scope of work from Ms. Sturgeon on what she feels the services that she can provide in connection with this consultant services agreement in the interim until an executive director is selected by the board. And so I can read through that and maybe we can have a discussion about that. Chair, is the plan to discuss the scope now and bring back the contract at another time? Or is the plan to possibly make a motion to allow possibly you as the chair to negotiate and execute a contract with Ms. Sturgeon with a stated term up to a maximum amount so that there is this continuity for the agency?
That's a great question. Let me answer it by giving a little bit of background to the rest of the board. I received this proposal from Ms. Sturgeon Wednesday, I think, of last week, and shared it with, or maybe it was Thursday, but either way, it was around the middle of last week. I shared it with HUD San Francisco because I'm not a procurement officer, nor have I managed a housing authority before, and wanted to get their input and guidance on it, and also shared it with Ms. Brown, the authority's new legal counsel. And so I didn't until earlier this morning get an email back from HUD with their comments, which seemed to be appropriate for the scope of work and the tasks before the housing authority. And so that's why it's not attached to this packet. I didn't have the information to give you until earlier today. And I didn't think that it was good to just throw some information at you and have you ask all these questions because you had no bearing to what we were discussing, and when we could discuss it tonight, if that helps better explain what we're doing. So I think, it would be tough for me to understand a course in which we hear the proposal, direct staff to prepare a contract, and then come back in 30 days to execute it, or even to call a special meeting and have us all get back together again and blow up our evenings. So I would ask that if you're comfortable after Ms. Brown goes through the document, that we could authorize the chairperson with legal counsel and HUD's approval that we've already received to go ahead and execute once things are firmed up. But certainly if that's not what the board chooses to do, that is the board's prerogative. So that's just to kind of put it out there what the options are.
Chair, are you able to share your screen to show it?
That is a great question. I wonder, Miss Sturgeon, I see you're on the call. I don't know if you have your Word document accessible, and you might be able to locate it in your email faster than I could. Oh, actually, I have it here. Just
Okay.
kidding.
And then what I'm going to do is I will take notes of the discussion, and then at the end, where there are modifications, if it is, once you review it, it would be subject to whatever modifications you all make tonight.
Right. So just to put a finer point on it, I would not do anything but sign the document, and I would not sign the document unless you all wanted me to, and we would discuss what we're willing to sign up to tonight. So there's not like I'm going to be meeting with Ms. Sturgeon and negotiating back and forth. We're going to have that conversation now, and your permission would be just for me to put my name on the document and authorize it, if that makes sense. And I'm waiting for Microsoft Word to open. Here it goes, and I will share my screen now. Actually, it is disabled. Gabby, can you authorize me? Maybe I need to be a co-host. I'm not sure. Apologize for the delay. I know that we've been at this for 18 months, but there's still some hiccups from time to time. So thanks for your patience.
I gave you host
Thank
ability.
you so much. And okay. Oh, that's not what I want. Let's do, man, that's frustrating. Okay, I think we'll have to scroll a bit, but I want to make sure it's readable for everybody. So the Ms. Brown, did you want to be in charge of the discussion and I can be in charge of scrolling, or did you want me to be?
I can do the discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so to start off, the role would be part-time. Ms. Sturgeon would be available in the afternoons, I believe between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. She has said she's willing to make herself available 7 days a week between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. And please, and then when I'm done, I'll allow Ms. Sturgeon to kind of chime in if I misstated anything. The proposed contract would contain all of the standard insurance provisions that you should typically have in a services agreement, including professional liability insurance, general liability insurance, workers' comp, that sort of thing. I mean, if she has no employees, clearly it won't apply, but it's all still going to be in there. The term is going to be for a fixed short term, I believe, 3 to 7 West Coast. So I saw a comment. So it's 3 to 7 p.m. West Coast. The proposal is for the term to very much be short term, because the hope is that you will have a permanent ED who can step in. So the suggestion is 6 months. And again, this is going to be a contract that can be terminated at will by the board. It can either be terminated, excuse me, not at will. I meant for cause or no cause. So that's typically the two ways you can terminate these agreements. For cause if there's a default, no cause just if for any reason, you know, maybe you hire someone sooner and you no longer need Ms. Sturgeon's services before the 6-month period expires, and you can terminate the agreement. The proposed hourly rate is $98 an hour, which she will be required to submit written invoices, lining out how many hours she's worked and what items she's worked on. And of course, the items have to be within this scope that we're going to be discussing. And any items outside of the scope will need your prior consent before they can be worked on. So if there is an item that someone presents to her, the idea is for her to reach out to whoever will be administering this contract to say, I've been asked to answer, to do, you know, A, B, and C, which is not within the scope. Do I have your consent to do that? If not, that's not covered. And so payment is she's technically not supposed to perform it without your consent because the scope is very limited. So now getting into the scope. So you see here the bullet points. She's going to assist with HUD contracting matters, representing the agency in public meetings, facilitating agency continued operations, such as authorizing capital expenditures, the oversight of procurement activities, administering weekly departmental staff meetings, daily departmental briefings, and transacting agency business as required by the executive director, and oversight of departmental operations via departmental directors, attending board meetings. I'm assuming making presentations at board meetings, preparing the board reports. As you can see, when I was looking through it, I believe she put together the entire packet that we're working off of today. Conducting any reporting required to HUD, constituent relations, being the go-between with the employee union and handling oversight of the MOU, human resource oversight, and recruitment process oversight. So that's when, so she's going to have multiple hats, and it's my understanding she had multiple hats when she was employed by the agency. So that was all the interim ED hat. Now we're going to put on her director of finance hat. So she's also proposing to, in the interim, take over the role of director of finance until that position is filled. And the scope of work for that will include facilitating agency financial operations and reporting, oversight of accounting and the finance team, oversight of internal audits and external audits, agency cash management, check signing, transaction authorization, HUD financial reporting, HUD financial systems oversight, project oversight, staff transitional training, and grant funding oversight and compliance. And so that's the scope of work that was presented. I'm going to hand it back to you, Chair, and I'm hoping Ms. Sturgeon's available to answer any questions about the scope that folks may have.
Thanks very much, Ms. Brown. And I
Sure.
will leave this up for a minute longer in case folks want to. I'm trying to make it small enough to see, but not so small you can't read it. If anybody has questions about what's on here, if they want to write down a particular item, like can it take your notes before the teacher changes the slides? And then I'll stop sharing and we can have our discussion. And I can always just call it right back up, but I just wanted to give you a chance to peek at it. So we'll do that and we're back. Okay, so I see Ms. Sturgeon is on. Any focused or direct questions from Ms. Sturgeon before we give her an opportunity to give us a bit of a briefing? Commissioner Ballesteros.
Okay, mine's an easy question. So in regards to the finance part, so is she gonna be available for the HTC for any of the finance reporting that goes through the HTC meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah. Because that service is provided by HACM to HTC.
Okay.
HTC does have a point person, so I'll be overseeing that point person and making sure there's transitional training so that everybody understands how to put those packets together.
Okay, great. Thank you, darling.
Any other direct questions from Ms. Sturgeon on the scope of her proposal?
And Darlene, what are the things, you just speak to the things that you cannot do remotely, and sort of what you think the workarounds, might be on those things.
I think most of the things are making sure that business continuity goes through via the directors, via the staff, making sure the staff keeps moving forward on their projects. If any large scale project comes up, obviously, I don't feel that taking that on remotely would be appropriate. So it would be more in the position of making sure the staff understands what to do, breaking the project down, assigning it out, and leading them through it. So it's mostly going to be kind of tapering the staff off and getting their dependence when it comes to finance, their dependency on me to do day to day to get them in their process. And, from the executive director role, every single question that comes through, might be hard to hit, but making sure that, you know, constituent concerns are addressed, making sure that the large scale items get done. So, you know, manning the email, because there is currently the email for the executive director, you know, hitting that, maintaining that, keeping the community relations on the open projects that are currently out there. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to make any, you know, in-person appearances or meetings, but so if someone did want to meet in person and not via Zoom, that could be an obstacle.
And then I guess my second question is just to be clear, this time window is the time window you can work, but it's not a time window in which you have to work. So for example, if we brought on an interim executive director through our search process in a couple of weeks, you could taper down to an as needed basis just for sort of institutional memory.
Exactly. So that it can all be modified.
Or finance. Yeah.
Correct. Right. Correct. So it would depend on how you want to do the handoffs. So that can always, you know, we can go in and modify and amend because, you know, if you find an interim that you want to place, so maybe it's a handoff of a couple meetings over a week or two because they're experienced. So it's put more effort into the finance and getting the finance team up and going. It can be modified in any way. And I can be available. I think the only change was it was 2 p.m. Pacific time to 7 p.m. But yeah, it can be modified based on your hiring. And that's the ultimate goal, is just to create a bridge.
Yeah, I just want to be flexible enough. Yeah, and sort of a la carte enough where, you know, if the interim ED 2 weeks in has a question for you and they can pick up the phone and
Yep, exactly.
Great, thank you. Any other direct questions for Ms. Sturgeon before she's got a chance to just kind of that last question in an interview? All right, Ms. Sturgeon, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, just if you wanted to just give us sort of close us out on this topic with the scope and your proposal. And
yeah, I think, you know, ultimately just understanding that this is just what we would call a bridge contract. You know, the ad hoc committee is actively, you know, pursuing their options and looking to place an interim. This is not something that, you know, looks to be a long-term fix. This is just a bridge of continuity so that the agency can still transact business, can still have a point person that HUD is comfortable with, and transitioning to that next step. So I don't want anybody to think that this is a permanent situation, nor is the expectation that this is a permanent position. This is a bridging tool so that we can get the placements done. And like I said, the ad hoc committee is working diligently on finding a placement.
great, thank you. Let's go out to the public. Anybody wishing to comment or have any questions related to the proposed temporary professional services contract with Ms. Sturgeon for interim executive director and director of finance services?
I don't see Gabby.
Yeah, me neither.
Gabby?
Oh, there she is.
There.
It's like nobody's on hold, and I don't see any hands in the Zoom, so we'll close public comment. This was one of the items that we talked about in our special meeting. I think that it's important that we have somebody and that we don't just shift that burden onto Ms. Madera to do it by herself now, instead of there being two folks. And I think it makes sense for us strategically to have a little extra capacity. And while it's certainly not the more traditional business model, you know, we're in a tough spot after the leadership changes we've had. And I really do expect this to be on the shorter term. And frankly, it's my opinion that $98 an hour is pretty reasonable in terms of a short-term executive. So I would ask for comments or action from the board. And please, you know, if you got anything to say, please share.
Can I chime in really quickly? The board should also set a maximum contract amount. And crunching the numbers, I mean, I don't know, Chair, or the rest, if you want to throw out a number, but crunching the numbers at saying 3 to 4 hours a day at $98 an hour. I have here a number of about for 6 months of 60, like a rough number of $66,000 of a max contract amount. So I'm just throwing that out there because that should be approved as well as part of this, or not approved, considered, excuse me, as part of this discussion.
Yeah, so if we did $98 an hour times 3.5 hours to kind of capture the average of 3 or 4 times 5 days a week for 26 weeks, that would put us a little under 50,000. Does the board want to do, we anticipate bringing somebody on and Ms. Sturgeon's services sort of tapering down, but at the same time, we don't want to box ourselves in and have to come back and reopen this just to extend it a little bit. Is the board, whoever decides to make a motion, if one is made, maybe a not to exceed of 50,000 just to have a bit of contingency on top of that upper limit, in case something extraordinary happens and we find ourselves between a rock and a hard place again. And thank you, Ms. Brown, for catching that.
Yeah, I make a motion to authorize the chair to consult with counsel to execute a contract with our former interim ED, Ms. Sturgeon, for an amount up to $50,000 for the scope that's been outlined here.
Right, and again, I beg your pardon, is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Ballesteros, for your second, and Vice Chair Buder for the motion. And again, this is Ms. Sturgeon will be required to submit invoices. There's not a flat rate that we just pay every week. And as part of the contract, those would, of course, be at your discretion and prerogative. Commissioners, you could ask to see those invoices and review them yourselves. And we want to do everything above board, but at the same time, we need to give ourselves a little bit of latitude so that we don't get ourselves into a pinch with our friends up in San Francisco. So it's been properly moved and seconded, and we'll go for the roll call vote, please.
Chair Wizard,
Aye.
Vice Chair Buder,
Yes.
Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes.
Commissioner Gama,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes.
Can we have an unanimous pass?
Great, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your focus on trying to create that stability in the organization as we continue to transition a little bit. So 7E, that's the new item, and thank you, Ms. Sturgeon. I appreciate your willingness to help us. 7E is the new item. We met with a consultant in our ad hoc committee meeting. He laid out a plan where he believes that he could potentially have somebody in as the new interim executive to be on the other side of that bridge from Ms. Sturgeon as early as next Friday, which would be really good news, really exciting that that's a possibility. So I know Vice Chair Buder, you were taking some notes in that call. Is there, would you like to brief the group?
Yeah, so we did a lot of outreach to executive directors, in California and around the country, and we identified a couple of sort of leading executive search firms. This individual is a sole proprietor who happens to be the number 2, sort of in the industry, a specific focus on housing authority executive placements. He's worked with 200 housing authorities in 40 states. He's got a 40 or 50 year background in the industry and has been doing this executive search work for about 14 years. And he has a group of folks, 25 folks that he wants to reach out to. He's already reached out to several folks just on a prospective basis and stays in touch with a number of people. These are all retired executive directors who, know their stuff and will be able to step in and handle this scope and be good stewards of the agency. So, he thinks that he has 4 to 5 folks that are interested. So his timeline would be, he wants to fly out here this week. He wants to work with the board on putting together sort of a selection rubric and selection criteria. And he would like to this week start interviewing people, and ideally 4 to 5 candidates. And cost wise, he's proposing $11,000, which would include, it would not include his travel, which would probably be just one trip. So it's everything but that. But it would include any advertising that they do and the background checks, etc. He would in addition make reference check calls beyond just reference checks that people list. He would call around to executive directors in the industry and get a handle on how folks are viewed, help us assemble the interview questions, sit in on the interviews. All of that is baked in. And his name had come up in several conversations with executive directors. His name is Stan Quay, Q-U-Y. In addition to Margaret McGillivray, who many of us know from our Econometrica training. And the combination, I think of just the timing, how quickly he's jumped on this. He was on a cruise last week and was sort of all over this like white on rice. I think the ability to fill this with somebody who really knows what they're doing to get to the other side of that bridge that Darlene has. If we think of this as sort of a 3-phase process in the ad hoc committee, Darlene is the first phase with the bridge these next 2 weeks. Then this interim could maybe be 3 to 6 months. This interim placement from Stan, and then eventually, we would just start, the full-time executive director search and hopefully have someone placed in, within 6 months. So that's some of the context on kind of where he came from and his proposal.
Thanks, Vice Chair Booter. Any questions from or actually, Commissioner Ballesteros, did you have any other notes that you took that you wanted to share with the group?
Well, I wrote down that he stated that he has 50 years experience, and 36 of those out of those 50 has been working with HUD and troubled housing authorities. He also mentioned that, his soul is to, this is his passion, is executive recruitment. He enjoys doing this. And he presented himself as very reasonable. And I really liked him. So that's all those are some of the notes that I wrote down. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ballesteros. Any questions from board members to the ad hoc committee? Commissioner Miller?
I would just say that when you brought up his name, I Googled him real quick, and he appears to have a vast amount of experience and probably would be very good at helping guide us through, especially what we're going through now, and finding someone to help hold things down until we get to a permanent executive director. And that way Darlene won't be forced to spend all of her waking hours helping us when she gets done with their other jobs. So I think that it sounds like a great plan to move forward to get us to where we need to be.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thoughts or questions from other commissioners? All right, seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Any public comments on the possibility that the Housing Authority may contract with Stan Quay to do executive recruitment for an interim executive director placement?
No.
Okay, I'll give it a sec for the Zoom.
I would just like to comment quickly that Stan is highly regarded throughout HUD. So that's just a little extra piece of knowledge.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else, so we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for comments and action.
I will make a motion for approval of the, is it a contract or?
Yeah, I think Ms. Brown, it would be a contract not to exceed a number that you want to tell us.
Well, I think that's up to you all because he did say 11K for his cost. Travel is going to be a lot. So I think it's best to cap it and tell him use GSA rates, but you know, we can only cover so much because that could be a lot. So I mean, I don't, where is he coming from?
Nebraska.
Nebraska. And how many times does he, what's the term of contract he's looking for? Oh, one time.
This is
Nice.
just for the interim meeting.
Oh, I think then you can just add like, what do you guys think? I mean, it's gonna be, how many days?
I wanna
is he gonna stay
say,
with you?
yeah, you want to say not to exceed 15,000? That's probably too
Yeah.
much in
No,
terms
it's
of.
better to have just in case. I would.
Yeah,
totally
because if he has to
think
come out a second time, I don't want to have to come back to you for $1,000 adjustment.
Yeah.
So I will make a motion that we approve a contract with him not to exceed $15,000.
And I second.
Second.
Well, I'm glad to see that enthusiasm. We'll say that it was, I heard Commissioner Ballesteros with her comment before you, Commissioner Healy, but I appreciate your efforts. Moved by Commissioner Miller and seconded by Commissioner Ballesteros to approve a contract not to exceed 15,000 with Stan Quay for the interim executive director recruitment. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Chair Wizard,
Aye.
Vice Chair Buder,
Yes.
Commissioner Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballesteros,
Yes.
Commissioner Gama,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes.
Unanimous pass.
Thank you so much, Ms. Madera. That will conclude the new business and we'll move to item 8, our information items, the finance report, please.
Everything is in the board report unless you have any questions, and I will get back to you and follow up.
Okay. Human resources scorecard report. I think also Ms. Madera.
Yes, it's the same thing. If you have any questions, and we could report back to you with the follow-up.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Maria, I know that since Chair Wizard mentioned you're the one that's there directing the ship. So I just want to mention in regards to the human resources scorecard. I wrote down in my notes, one of the things on the scorecard, let me go to that bullet. Let me see if I can find it. It's the bullet where on number 1, on improved customer satisfaction, and under status, the first bullet says continue to provide a trusted place for employees to express concerns without fear of retaliation, including COVID-19 related concerns. So I know, I know that there might be maybe Jose Acosta that's there, some support to you. I know it's a lot because it's all the employees that are under supervision. And so I just wanted to just to know that I know you're carrying a lot, but I think one of the things is, if you need guidance or something comes up, to contact or the chair and let them know. Because I received a call from Supervisor Alejo. I don't know all the details, but he did mention that he had received some complaints from employees. that work at the housing authority. He didn't go into detail. So I just wanted, just to mention, because, it's a lot of stress for you. It's a lot. And you're the one, but I wanted to just bring it up that you can, contact Chair Wizard if you feel overwhelmed, or if anything happens, that you maybe have Jose, or I don't know who the next person is, to be there. Well, when Darlene starts.
Yes.
That way you have some support, because you're the one that's there physically, and then she's the one that's going to be there, guiding all these different areas that she's going to be tackling. But I just wanted to mention that I know some employees can try to take advantage, and not, different reasons, whether it's their own performance or their own accountability on their job. Some employees, they can slack, but, I believe that Darlene coming, being there can help to regroup and to, solidify that.
Yes.
I am going to have a meeting with Supervisor Alejo on Friday. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. He wants to meet with me. So, just to let you know, I don't know, but I don't know what he has to tell me. But I'll see.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me know.
Yes.
If I have any questions, I would reach out to Commissioner Wizard or Darlene when she starts.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Moving to the development report, Ms. Warren.
Happy wet evening. So everything is in the development report. Obviously, we have a lot of dewatering issues on our 2 sites that are under construction, and staff is watching this closely and reaching out to the housing authority with regard to RAD properties that have historically had water intrusion issues and flooding issues. So it's a bit of a busy time right now for staff, making sure that we don't have additional problems coming up. But Parkside 1 is going relatively well. I know this rain is not going to help tenant parking for 2 Parkside, but we're doing the best we can. We are complying with all of the water discharge requirements, and the city is quite engaged in that. We do have some issues on Tynan Village where we are currently replacing the building envelope. And that obviously means we have open areas on 3 buildings. So HDC staff is walking the site several times a day and interfacing with the contractor. So if anybody doesn't have any other questions, that would conclude my report.
Thanks very much. Item D, Mr. Acosta, the property management report.
Hi, good afternoon, commissioners. Right now, there's just a couple of things on the report I want to highlight. Right now, we're working diligently on getting ready for an audit that was scheduled for this Friday. We have a tax credit representative that will be auditing the files and the physical inspection for Castroville. So we're actively working on that. We've also completed a lot of inspections that happened very recently, and we did really good. We got good feedback from the auditors and the inspectors. So we're waiting for their responses. We should receive them within the next 30 days. But we're working diligently on getting ready for the coming year. We have a lot on our plate that we have to do at the beginning of the year. We're actually also working very hard right now on getting ready for the welfare exemptions that we have to complete. We're working on multiple projects, the Migrant Center with the CNA. We're working with Portola Vista. We're working, like Starla mentioned, working with the staff on ensuring that during these times, there's no water intrusion in the buildings. We had a couple of leaks in some of the properties today. but they were very minor. We were able to take care of those. But we're just doing everything that we can to minimize the effect on the residents and keep the properties, from any water intrusion. And outside of that, everything else is on the report. We have very little vacancies at this time. We are working diligently to house those vacancies, and we have files ready for those vacancies. So they should be housed in the next the next 2 weeks. And outside of that, everything else is on the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acosta. And our housing programs report.
Yes, pretty much. I would like to report on the HCV department. We are currently still processing all the applications that we took online. I also have staff, they're trying to get all the interims and annuals done before our COVID, because we do have an expiration date as of December 31st. So staff is working very hard to get those all completed. We're also working with a lot of our partner agency for the emergency housing vouchers. As you can see, we have families out searching now that we have our housing navigator starting today. So we're going to be working with her so she could start working with the families to hopefully we'll get them into housing as soon as possible. So basically everything's on my report unless the board has any questions.
None from me. I don't see anybody raising their hands or unmuting. So we'll call that a report. Thank you so much, Ms. Madera. Any commissioner comments before we go? I'm hoping to give everybody a little bit of a break. So let's start with Commissioner Gama. Anything to share?
No, I don't have anything to share. I'd just like to thank Darlene for still sticking around and helping us. And thank you everybody for all their good job.
Thank you. Commissioner Goodwin.
I'd like to thank Darlene for her commitment to our housing authority here in Salinas. And I wish her well in her new venture. And hope all of you have a very Merry Christmas. It's a little bit better this year than it was last year. It's not as gloomy. At least we can, get together with our loved ones. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Healy.
I would ditto the comments. Thank you to Darlene. Thank you to Maria for stepping up. And also wish everyone else a happy holiday season. And thank you to the ad hoc committee for all of their good work to help us right the ship.
Thank you. Commissioner Ballesteros.
I want to tell everybody Merry Christmas. Have a great a new year entering. And I also want to tell Gabby, thank you, Gabby. You did a great job. I know I got to meet with her a couple of days ago. And I also want to thank Darlene for, stepping in and helping us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller.
Okay, finally got unmuted. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hopefully things will be better in 2022, but I don't want to jinx that either. I'd like to thank Darlene and for Maria for stepping up, Darlene for sticking around, Maria for stepping up to help us control things until we figure out where we're going to be. And really a lot of thanks to the ad hoc committee for all your guys and gals hard work and all the meetings that you've done to try to get us in a position where we can get some control until we can find a permanent ED and fill some of those other executive positions. So it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Booter.
Yeah, I thank you, Chair Wizard, and Commissioner Ballesteros. We've been spending a lot of quality time together, and I think we've made some progress. Other than that, happy holidays.
Thanks. And I just would also like to thank both Vice Chair Booter and Commissioner Ballesteros for their labor of love that has been these maybe 10 meetings over the last 3 weeks, maybe more. And then also the other commissioners for their trust and patience as we navigate this and try to speed up these processes so that we can act on them when we meet just this once a month. So thank you, Ms. Madera. We appreciate that you've stepped into the gauntlet, and we are trying to move quickly to ensure that you don't feel alone. And perhaps Ms. Sturgeon will be able to provide you a little bit of support before you can get a new interim ED in to kind of shoulder the rest of it. And thank you to Ms. Brown for joining us this evening and helping us navigate some of these issues, and for all the rest of the staff for taking time out of your evening. We really appreciate it. And with there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.